Welcome to Lead Pods, the official leadership podcast from USMB for pastors and church leaders, where our goal is to increase our impact together.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 51 of the USMB Lead Pods. My name is Matt Ersman, and I'll be your host today. Thank you so much for joining us. And today we are continuing our series as we are getting to know the speakers who will be at the USMB convention this summer. July is just creeping up. It's going to be here before we know it, and I'm really looking forward to being at the convention, hopefully with a bunch of you all. And today we are getting introduced to someone that many of you may not know yet. Author Gary Comer will be speaking at the convention, and I speak with him today. He has written several books. Today we kind of focused in on two of them, called Remission and another one called Soul Whisperer. And both of those kind of dive into our topic of evangelism and kind of the future of church leadership. And I learned a lot from Gary. I really enjoyed getting to know him. So let's just dive right in. Let's take a quick break to hear from a sponsor, and then we'll get right to my conversation with author Gary Comer.
MB Foundation provides biblical financial stewardship solutions to the Mennonite Brethren community. We encourage stewardship and generosity through the gathering, management, and distribution of financial resources for Christ and His kingdom. Let us assist you in giving meaning to money. Our services include planned giving, loans, fund management, investment certificates, and stewardship education. With offices in Hillsborough, Kansas, and Fresno, California, we are ready to serve you. Learn more at www.mbfoundation.com. or call us today at 1-800-551-1547. MB Foundation is pleased to partner with USMB to bring you this episode of Lead Pods.
All right, my friends. Well, I'm excited to introduce you to Gary Comer. Gary is one of our convention speakers this summer, and he is an accomplished author. He's written 6 books. He's also a professor at Talbot Seminary and just has a lot of great experience as a pastor and church planter. Has a huge heart for evangelism, which you'll hear here in just a little bit. So, Gary, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. Really grateful to have you with us.
Matt, thank you for having me on.
It's awesome to meet you and to chat for a little bit. So really grateful for your time. So yeah, Gary, I know that you've got 6 books, like we just said. You've got a lot of great history I'm excited to dive into here. You've got kind of 2 books that people maybe are familiar with, or that have kind of, that's one of the main reasons why you're coming to the convention, is to kind of hit these 2 topics with us. So Remission and Soul Whisperer. I know you're going to kind of hit both of these topics at the convention, right? Or what are you bringing when you come to the convention coming up here this year?
Yes, I was contacted by the conference director, Don Morris, and gave me a call, and he had heard about Soul Whisperer. Mm-hmm. And so he wanted to interact with me about the possibility of coming to speak, and, then said, well, you have this other book too, so which one do we want to go with? And so we had that conversation. I ended up getting them into Remission, and just thought, it'd probably be good for you to read Remission and make that determination. And they decided after vetting the book that they're going to have me teach and interact with the pastors about the remission concepts. And so Remission, rethinking how church leaders create movement, that is going to be, the focus for the conference. But Soul Whisperer is also really a big treatise on evangelism, and the subtitle there, Why the Church Must Change the Way It Views Evangelism. So it is really a strong message towards us really getting into a deeper conversation about evangelism. And so that particular line of thought is always in my teaching and my training, and I have just a lot to say about that as well. And so hopefully we can kind of touch on those, but that just gives you a little bit of background for the conference.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, I know I can already tell our time's going to go quickly today, but let's try to hit both of your main books here while we're together. So let's start with Remission. That's your most recent book. So talk to us about what forced that book to come about. What are you seeing in the church that is making this need for leaders to kind of rethink create movement, as you said. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I think, when we get to the subject of remission, we kind of have to ask the question of why, like why do we need to do this? Well, obviously there's this big wider context that we're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I am somebody who's observing, studying the church and working with churches. That's what I do primarily. I am an adjunct professor at Talbot Seminary
Mm-hmm.
and, teach mission concepts. But my main focus is helping churches to develop missionally. And so when I wrote Remission, I see something that we really need to address. And so, of course, I am trying to, help leaders to really think through some of those elements. And really, for the most part, I kind of see a problem. And it's kind of like you have to do a little bit of kicking through the rubble, like Nehemiah 1. You have to actually see a problem before you can get focused on trying to solve a problem. And Remission is a solutions-oriented book for leaders. It's really designed to help them solve a problem, which is the mission formation and the mission empowerment and efficacy of their members. And so if we are to look at what I call the facts and the faces, okay? The facts are the data and the research. And if we look at some of that research, the missional survey that Christ Together did years back, but it's still very relevant. It revealed that, across the board, with denominations, the high majority, 73% of Christians said that they believe that they were ineffectual in reaching out to non-believers.
Wow. Okay.
Ineffectual. And so, but to me, I don't have to even look at the facts. I don't have to look at Barna, or I don't have to look at Pew for some of that data. All I have to do is look in the faces. And so I do a ton of training, not just at Talbot Seminary, but it's at churches. And I work with Christians, and I can tell you that many of them feel ill-equipped, and really, in a way, almost feel clueless as to how to go about fulfilling this great mandate of the Great Commission to make disciples.
Yeah.
And so some are going gangbusters with it. We do always have some verbal go-getters who are out there, and some of them have the evangelism gift, and some of them are really going hard after it. But my eyes are on the rest of the body.
Yeah.
How do we get the rest of the body to be engaged and more fruitful? And the truth is, many of them, and I will tell you this, many of them are isolated from having relationships with non-believers.
Yeah. Yep.
And so we have a fundamental problem right there. And we cannot just wave a wand over it. We can't just, hey, go have some non-Christian friends and it's done.
Right.
How does that happen? And
how do we? That's a good question. Can we talk about that for a minute? Because I know the longer you're a Christian, the easier it is for you to get in those bubbles, right? If most of your family's a Christian, if you go to a church every week, and if you have friends who are Christians, maybe you went to a Christian college or you work at a church, the longer you're in those bubbles, the easier it is for that to happen, right? So can you talk about that? How do we make sure that doesn't happen to us? And how do we make sure we have those non-Christian relationships?
Yeah, and there's a lot to say about it. And part of what I'm trying to do in the book is to add some different kinds of skills in the lives of people. But what we have looks a lot like John 4. We have the disciples, us, off on a fellowship food run where Jesus is having this deep, impacting, incredible conversation with a Samaritan woman at a well. Yeah. Part of the question is, how do we, like Jesus, get positioned so that that meaningful conversation can happen? And so I would say that those are two different types of skills.
Okay.
The first they are in the positioning category. They are skills that we call those framing skills.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you are framing up the time of getting together with a non-believing person.
Yeah.
You are learning how to frame up a relationship first.
Mm-hmm.
And so those particular positioning skills, there's quite a bit to be taught there.
Yeah.
And we might not realize the power of it. Now, I'll tell you, I backed into much that I talk about in evangelism. I backed into, meaning it happened with me. And then I saw the way God used it, the way things progressed. I ended up reaching two skeptics. One was an atheist and the other a theistic skeptic.
Okay.
Both came to faith 2 weeks apart. It was a 9-month and then a 6-month journey with these people. But how did that happen? Like people say, well, how did that happen? Well, first of all, that getting together with them weekly there had to be a framing of that. I mean, we needed to have a conversation about having a conversation.
Right.
And those particular skills, like what's involved in that? Does somebody want to spend time with you? Right.
Yep.
You know, why would they want to spend time with you? Mm-hmm. Are you able to communicate why that would be a meaningful time to get to know them, to build a friendship, to talk about something that is meaningful to their life?
Yeah.
You know, so with my atheist, I'm like, hey, I'd love to learn a little bit more about your beliefs, which is really your lack thereof.
Lack of beliefs, right?
Yeah. Why is it that you hold that, that card, why are you an atheist? And, and I'd love to share more about my faith. And so that just entered into a long, amazing, incredible experience of journeying with this person. And his wife, I mean, man, she just handed him off to me. When he came to faith, she just broke down in tears. She just could not believe what had happened.
Yeah. And
God opened my eyes to the power of the journey with someone. And I practice it regularly, and I teach this kind of thing with evangelism today. It's called the relational evangelism process. Okay, so it's what I'm teaching in my trainings. Yeah.
Okay. I love that, and I know I've talked with other people about this on this podcast before, but it seems like in previous generations, or not that long ago, it was common for quote unquote evangelism to be going door to door with tracts, or maybe you invite them to like a one-time revival or something like that. And we kind of hope that there'll be this one-time magical moment where they'll open up their eyes and heavens will be open. They'll accept Jesus and everything will be wonderful. Right. But I think that if I'm understanding you right, especially with the two friends you just mentioned, you said it took weeks and many conversations to build up to a point where you both were able to communicate effectively and you were able to share your life story with them. So it's long term, right? It's not necessarily these flash pan one moments where obviously we hopefully get to that point, but it takes a lot of relational equity to get there. Is that what you would say?
Yeah, I would say that. That's part of how we need to think differently about it. It's not the one hit wonder pitch to a stranger you bump into.
Right.
The one hit wonder thing has got to go from our thinking. And, one of the things that I say is, one of the reasons why we're failing to reach more. And I believe that we are. We are. And that's I know it's a strong assessment, but if you look again at the facts and the faces, we are not an effectual body with story after story of our people deep in relationship with non-believing people in non-believing circles,
right.
Lots of relationships with people who are outside our faith. And so part of it is to see influence What Jesus has asked us to do is to be influencers for him,
Right.
not
Right.
not just tellers, not
Mm-hmm.
tellers. And
Yep.
so, and I talk about that in Soul Whisper. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's just not just about telling, it's about the taking. It's about the taking. You see, what needs to happen for faith to form in a non-believer? And
Mm-hmm.
of course, you hit on it. Today is different. We have so many people who begin much farther away. They're more
Yeah.
distant. They're
Yep.
more distant. And
Mm-hmm.
so if we don't approach it from a sense of relationship, by the way, that angle fits disciple making. We're not
Right.
called just to tell the gospel, we're called to make disciples. And if
Exactly. Yep.
you're going to make a disciple, you need a relationship. So
Mm-hmm.
that once they come to faith, which you're going to lead them into the faith and
Mm-hmm.
bring them into the church, you will
Yep.
disciple them further. And
Yeah.
guess what? Guess what? They will be immediately sharing their faith with
Yep.
others.
Yep.
They will be doing the very thing that they've experienced. Yeah, getting this to rise in the church, getting the mission formation, the mission Q, what I call MQ, mission quotient
Okay.
to rise, the understanding of what it takes to reach someone,
Mm-hmm.
for them, not just for us to tell the message,
Yeah.
but for them to hear the message.
Yep.
Okay, so that gets into another part of it. Okay, so I talked
Okay.
about positioning skills. This other part is the messaging part. Well, how do we how does that happen? How does influence happening with the gospel? Because we really are, and this is what I do is I want to be, I'm intentional and I'm authentic with non-believers, that I want to have a meaningful conversation about faith.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because how do you start that? Because if someone's not a believer in modern America, they know at least a little bit about Jesus and at least a little bit about the church, and they've got some kind of presuppositions about what this whole thing is about, right? And so if they're not currently a believer, there's probably a reason why, or maybe the reason is they just haven't spent time to think about it. Maybe it's that, or maybe they have a hurt or whatever. If you're going to have that kind of relationship with someone, how do you go about making this life look attractive to them? Like, how do you start some of those conversations?
Yeah, sometimes as we build relationship, it naturally occurs. And so, and this is why the relationship needs to go first, so that you can get to that place. So some of the positioning skills that we also teach along with this framing up a conversation are, one is drawing out, we kind of teach, hey, you need to ask some questions. And you need to draw out what it is they really think and feel about faith, about church, about God. You see, asking some just initial questions about, hey, do you have any background? I mean, my goodness gracious, it's just a very good opener, right?
Yeah.
But we need to get to a place where we draw out from them, and if they communicate things, then we need to ask those second and third layered questions.
Yeah.
Well, hey, can you explain a little bit more? Okay, your family didn't go to church, or you say you're religious or whatever. Can you explain a little bit more about your thoughts or your feelings about that? Do you think that it offers nothing really good for your life? Do you think that God is over you? Do you ever have anything that happens in your life where you wonder if there is someone over your life? Because I believe there is someone who cares for you. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to draw out and to get to some places where you can frame forward a conversation along those lines in some meaningful ways. Now, they may say something, or they may make an objection or ask a question And if they do, then you have your line. I call that a question line. Why don't we get together and talk about that? Hey, let's look into that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I have the full answer for that right now,
Mm-hmm.
but I'd like to look into that. How'd you like to get together over Starbucks,
Yeah.
and we can just talk, get to know each other more. You're
Mm-hmm.
you're kind of working these multiple lines, getting to know each other, the storyline, share your story, share your lives. I did that in a way with my atheist friend. It's like, hey, I'd like to learn more about what you think about that and
Yeah.
why you think the way you do.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm meeting with my local imam. Okay. So
Okay.
we have a mosque, a large mosque that's close to our home.
Okay.
And so I'm over at the mosque, periodically and have a really great relationship with him.
Wow. Very cool.
Yeah. So how did that happen? People say, well, I just tell them the skills, I framed it up, but I
Mm-hmm.
had an opportunity to go out with him for a dinner with some other people
Mm-hmm.
and got to know him a little bit. And then I decided, hey, I didn't want that just to stay there
Yeah.
and go nowhere.
Right.
I wanted to have a chance to reach him. And
Mm-hmm.
so what did I do? I called over to the mosque, and then said, hey, you know what? It was great, getting to know you and your wife. And gosh, that was just such a sweet time that we had.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to get to know you a little bit more. We're both leaders,
Uh-huh.
of our
Yeah.
faiths.
Yep.
And so, hey, how'd you like to get together at Starbucks? And then so we
Mm-hmm.
got there. And then it was from there, it was like, you know what, Ober, I would love to get to know a little more about Islam
Mm-hmm.
from
Mm-hmm.
you. I'd love to share more of my Christian faith with you as well. How'd you like to meet each week? That's how we
Yeah.
did it.
Okay.
So not easy to break through in reaching someone
Mm-hmm.
of a religion,
Mm-hmm.
the hardest category in my
Yep.
view,
Yep.
for reasons that are beyond, because it's not just a rational discourse.
Mm-hmm.
There's familial family
Right.
ties, right?
Right. Yep.
So we need to get along those dialogue lines,
Mm-hmm.
those
Mm-hmm.
lines. And if you draw out from them, you're going to find some ways. And another line that I give to people is called the learning line. Hey, let's learn something together. Usually it relates to their needs. Their
Mm-hmm.
needs. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
someone's a single parent and they're struggling with this, or someone's a parent and they're dealing with their kids, or they're dealing with this issue. Well, let's learn something together. And
Yeah.
sometimes it can be a Christian book that you
Mm-hmm.
interact with, sometimes not, but
Mm-hmm.
get into the deeper conversations, and
Yeah.
then faith can become a part of that conversation.
I like that a lot. I've heard recently that, especially in today's world, it's so divisive and people are very opinionated and it's just kind of a heated moment still. I've heard people talk about the importance of curiosity and how if you just show a genuine curiosity in that person's life and whatever, instead of having like a confrontation, but if you come with a curious mindset, that's how they'll love to talk to you about those kinds of things, right? So having a curious spirit can lead to some deeper conversations. I want to hear more about your imam friend. So I'm guessing, I think a lot of people, when it comes to evangelism, it's scary, right? Like it's hard. We're afraid we're going to say the wrong thing. We're afraid they're going to shut us down. They're afraid of all kinds of things that could go wrong, right? And so, but I'm wondering for you and your experience, are people as against it as your brain might want you to think, or are leaders like that generally open to these kinds of conversations?
Oh yeah, they're open. Of course, he wants to reach me too. Okay,
Right,
so
right.
yeah. So you need to know that, but understanding what people's motivations are,
Mm-hmm.
and getting to know them. I actually find that non-believers are very open to conversations, but we have to learn how to have safe conversations with them.
Mm-hmm.
And so what does that mean? Well, it means that they can say anything, believe anything,
Yeah.
they can express any disagreement and difference, and it does not alter the friendship.
Yeah. Yep.
It doesn't, it's safe, it's like, oh, okay, yeah. Hey, yeah, we disagree on that. And, it's okay. That's okay.
Right.
I often will qualify. Yeah, I know you see things differently. I know you believe differently, or, with my atheist friend, I often would really honor him. Gosh, he was bright. Oh my gosh. I mean, yeah, C.S. Lewis. I mean, but he was into his early 30s. He was an atheist. It's like the sharpest guys on the planet.
Yeah.
And yet that's where he was. And so we have some real smart skeptics out there. We need to honor them for their thinking, love them for who they are, and then leverage that ability to think, leverage that in a way that kind of frames up this looking at faith and looking at Christ.
Yeah.
See, and looking at God, and kind of leading that in a direction where their intellect is engaged. So obviously that's not easy to do, but I do build a path for that in Soul Whisperer. So I would love to see the church have a lot more of those stories, but we need to get the body, and that's again remission. It's like how do pastors shape a culture that's a mission culture, that's a gospel mission culture? How do they shape that? How do we? I want to address the interface. How do we shape believers in our pews? Believers in the body who can interface well with non-believers and be fruitful in reaching them. And so things have changed in huge ways, from going back into the where the church was and how it planted itself and where the culture was, and wow, we're at such a different place. And so if we have a more distant culture, leaders need to rethink attractional Christianity. Okay. Now I'm for keeping all the gains. There are a lot of gains. Okay. That happened way back when, really, 1975, Bill Hybels, 1980, Rick Warren, growth in the church across the spectrum with the evangelical churches. Mainline churches were dropping during that period from the 70s to the millennium. But what we see following is a reversal. We suddenly have all sorts of differing factors in play. The younger generations disconnected from organized faith. Willing to have conversations, open to having conversations, not completely disconnected from faith either, disconnected from church, really. It's probably a more accurate way to describe it. And the nuns, the non-religious identifiers. I mean, just so many of these big picture forces that are now in play. And, I believe that pastors need to think through what has happened. I mean, we have some big changes. Should the innovation brought to the church 47 years ago be what is driving our leadership, or do we need to create something that is bigger and more potent in the missional discipleship arena, which really requires, I think, introducing a whole nother form into the church? And that is what remission is about. That's what I believe. I believe the context, the contextualization is leading for us to lead differently. And it actually really requires us to build a different level of missional development form into our picture. So that's the leadership conversation. Now,
That's
go
good.
ahead. You can shoot me, but before we before we end,
Uh-huh.
I did want to share with you my thoughts about gospel communication itself.
Yeah, let's go there. Great.
Okay, so how do we have meaningful conversations?
Yeah.
How do we
It's a
have
big question.
meaningful gospel related conversations? How does
Hmm.
that happen? I think, one of the things that is in the Barna research, 2021 research,
Okay.
is that they came out that the Gen Zers,
Hmm.
the youngest of our generation, they want to be listened to, and
Mm.
they want to have a deep conversation.
Yeah.
And I really think that is expressed too in popular culture. The One of the shows called The 100. I don't know if you've ever seen The 100,
I don't think I have. Okay.
based off a book by Cass Morgan. It's a series, 7 seasons, but it's all based off of these young people who come down to an Earth that is recovering from radiation,
Okay.
and then who face an ongoing series of moral dilemmas.
Hmm.
And so all this is about is these young people having these deep, incredible, gut wrenching,
Hmm.
conversations, and having to make hard decisions, and
Yeah.
having to really define who they are and where they stand with things. And I'm
Hmm.
thinking, gosh, that's such a reflection of our younger audience, our younger generation. They
Yeah.
want to have a meaningful conversation.
Yeah.
They want to get into it. And so
Hmm.
so there's two ways that we can do it.
Okay.
And so I say there's two windows to our faith
Okay.
that take us to deeper places. One is disclosure. So I was on staff for 5 years at Sandals Church.
Yep.
Sandals, when I was there, maybe 6 or 7,000, and they're much bigger
Okay.
now.
Okay.
But their main focus, their theme, their mission statement is for people to be real,
Okay.
with themselves, God, and others. And so
Okay.
that focus on authenticity. And how do we do that? We get honest.
Yeah.
We open up and we share our real needs, our
Yeah.
sins,
Hmm. Our
our
questions.
struggles, our
Hmm.
questions, our
Yeah.
doubts.
Hmm.
We get real with
Yeah.
them.
Hmm.
And so that is one way. And so what happens? Why would that be important? Here's why it's important. When we do it and we take the step, they reciprocate back. And I'll tell you, Soul Whisper has a video series on YouTube.
Okay.
And so two of the videos share the stories of people who disclosed first,
Hmm.
and then in disclosing had the non-believer reciprocate back what they were dealing with and what they
Okay.
really thought, and then they led those people to faith.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. Okay. That's a very effective model. Yeah.
Disclosure. So
Okay.
the second,
Okay.
description.
Okay.
So this is what Jesus does in Soul Whisper. Okay. Soul Whisper. So why did I title it Soul Whisper? Because I titled it after Jesus's mission pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What does he do? Start where they are,
Yeah.
read what they need,
Mm-hmm.
know where to take them.
Okay.
Okay. So
Yeah.
he does it beautifully and powerfully. He never has the same conversation with anyone.
That's right. Yep.
Why is that?
Mm-hmm.
Because he's reading their needs and their storylines.
Yeah.
Okay. So with
Mm-hmm.
Nicodemus, and I like to teach John 3 and 4 together with Nicodemus. So who is he talking to? A Sanhedrin, a religious elite.
Yep.
And so what is his message to Nicodemus, according to his storyline? all your religiosity, Nicodemus, means nothing.
Yeah. Right.
You must be born again, born of the Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
How did that message completely dialed into who Nicodemus was, exactly what Nicodemus needed to hear?
Yeah.
Maybe he came into the faith. He was there at the end. But how did he leave that conversation? Disturbed.
Mm-hmm.
Disturbed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When you describe your faith, it's possible someone's going to leave disturbed,
Yeah,
because
right.
you're dialing into where their storyline and where they are and where they're headed and what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so, but what does he do in the next chapter, John 4, Samaritan woman?
Mm-hmm.
So he's talking to her. She's, he draws out. Notice how he draws out from her.
Yeah. Right.
Hey, bring your husband, this whole thing. And,
Yep.
he reveals, she's has all these relationships with 5 husbands, and then one she's not with, she's just living with him now, And
Right.
so, but what does he speak to this woman who's come to the well for water?
Yeah.
He says, looking at this soul thirsting woman, bouncing from
Mm-hmm.
relationship to relationship, looking for something deeper, hungering for it. I am the man
Mm-hmm.
who can provide you living water
Yep.
that would perpetually fill your soul.
Yep.
Very pinpointed and powerful. She leaves thrilled over the conversation, leaves her water jar there,
Yep.
runs back to the town to tell everybody.
Yep.
And they all come out, and we have a little mini revival that takes place right there
Mm-hmm.
with the Samaritans.
Yep.
And it's just incredible. But what does Jesus do? This is the skill we teach. It's called the gospel key. This is in Soul Whisper. It's also in remission.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, it sounds kind of simple to say this and kind of like well, duh, but like we should model our discipleship and our evangelism after Jesus, right? And like, I love what you just said, that he didn't treat anyone the same. He knew exactly what their context was. He knew what their needs were. He knew exactly the little element of what they were missing. He knew how to draw that out of them and confront that into a way that they could get to know him. And so, of course, that's beautiful, and it seems so simple, but it's exactly what we should be doing in our relationships as well. I love that you draw that out.
Yeah, and I backed into it myself. I experienced this kind of key communication with somebody. One of the skeptics that I reached, this communication happened, and that person came into the faith. I was able to communicate really what faith would do for this person, what it would mean for them.
Right.
You see, I was able to connect those dots. And so one of the training things that we use is you need to be able to answer this question or fill in the blank. If my friend, my non-believing friend, were to become a Christian, if you were to become a Christian, I see this happening in your life.
Yeah.
See how we're getting to that deeper place? This faith thing will make a difference. This is what you need.
Yeah.
This God over your life can bring this to your situation.
Yeah. God
can meet you in a way. So it's powerful.
Yeah, that's powerful.
It's powerful stuff. Yeah.
It is. And one thing, you said this a long time ago, but another thing that I think is important is you said something about, like, if someone asks you a tough question, it's okay to say, I don't know. Let's dive into that together. And I think one of the things I love about our faith, and I wonder if you echo this as well, is that it stands up to questions, right? If people have hard questions, our faith can answer them, right? And so they may not be easy and you may not know them off the top of your head, but we shouldn't be afraid to dive into those with people who might be having questions, because our faith can stand up to those, right? And that's part of the beauty of it.
Yes. And I have a little saying. I say, look at anything long enough and the truth rises to the top.
Okay. Yep.
And so, and that saying came out of my journey with my atheist friend.
Okay. Uh-huh.
So, had we not had the journey
Right.
of walking through some books together, some conversations together, some reasons to believe in God, we never would have gotten to the place where God blew the whole thing up and reached the guy.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Right.
I didn't save him. I had a meaningful conversation with him,
Right.
but eventually we went experiential with it. I really, at way down the road after we had done some, we had a big conversation about C.S. Lewis's argument for the existence of God, based off of our conscience. Right. Where did we all get that?
Right.
How
Right.
come we all have this radar, of moral conscience? And so, we talked about that for about 4 months, so
Right.
a long time. But then we added a whole bunch of things. Eventually, he got to a place where, we got to a place where, I didn't know how to break through that analytical locked up of him. He was just locked up. He just said, I see it, but I just still can't believe. I don't see God working in the world. And I said, well, don't you believe that God brought you and your wife together? He loves his wife. So I was taking advantage of that. And anyways, what happened was, I asked him if he'd be willing to pray and ask God to show himself. If God is real, ask him to show himself. I would not have done that early in the relationship. I don't think it would have been received. But we were 7 months in, and he did. God showed up in some ways, right? God did. Yep. God answered his prayers and broke it open.
Yeah.
And he came to faith, and it's just like, wow.
Yeah.
So, but you see, part of it again, the relationship's got to kind of be there.
Yeah. Oh, that's great, Gary. Our time's already gone so fast. So I want to just, as we kind of begin to wrap up here, I just want to encourage people, please come to the convention so we can hear more from Gary, learn more from you. You obviously have a lot of things that we can learn from you, and I'm excited to keep diving into that. The 2 books that we talked about today, Soul Whisperer and Remission. And he talked about the YouTube series about Soul Whisperer. So if you want to at least start with that, that's a great kind of primer, I think, to kind of get to know what your ministry is all about. So Gary, you've been awesome today. I'm looking forward to learning more from you. As we kind of begin to wrap up, is there anything we didn't hit that you want to tell us about before we wrap up today?
Well, I'll just say this. I'll just say that the gospel matters, and absolutely. It's easy for us to think of ourselves and our spiritual lives, and to do a lot that is about our growth, but not have the kind of emulation of Christ, who was the most mission-minded person who ever walked this planet, who came to fulfill the assignment from the Father, the shadowing Son to the leading Father, the intimacy between Jesus and the Father in everything he was doing. I just want to say, evangelism and mission, it's not that ancillary out there once in a blue moon thing you do. It is really meant to be an integral part of who you are and your spiritual formation. It's a part of that. It's central. And we need you. We need you for the gospel. We need pastors who are sharp and equipping their churches well. And we need Christians who are engaging and learning and growing in their mission quotient, in their approach to reach people. We need more stories that are missional stories today. And so I'm for that. I'm praying for that. I'm working for that. And I love to work with pastors and leaders who have a heart to expand the kingdom. And so those are just my thoughts. And I appreciated the time with you, Matt. Thank you.
Yeah, Gary. I can just feel your passion. And I felt myself just listening to, I usually I'm kind of more engaged with more questions, but I just felt like it was important for me just to listen to you today. So I just really appreciate your wisdom and experience that you brought to us. And I just, again, echo people, check out the conference and check out your books. Because like you said, it is very important and we all need to grow in this area. So Gary, it's been great. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Matt. Great connecting with you. Thank you.
What would it feel like for you to be living at your full potential? What if you were regularly connecting with someone who accepts you unconditionally, believes in and affirms your potential, actively listens to you, and keeps you accountable to help you reach your goals? A life coach will get you there. Coaching is an intentional one-on-one relationship that empowers people to realize their full potential in personal living and vocational accomplishment. Lead coaching is facilitated by trained MB coaches who serve as a life-on-life coach and is available to pastors, leaders, and anyone. To learn more, visit www.usmb.org/lead coaching or call Ed Boschman at 661-549-6021.
Well, once again, my thanks to Gary for joining us, and I encourage you to check out his books on Amazon or wherever you get your books if you're interested in learning more about that. Or, of course, we would love to have you come to the convention where Gary will be one of our featured speakers, and so you can visit usmb.org and you can check out more information, but I'd really encourage you to do that and dive in more into Gary's resources. And I just really appreciated a lot of what Gary had to say. And you know, evangelism can be a kind of scary thing for all of us, but it is just something that we're all called to do. And I appreciate Gary's approach of kind of taking a slower, more intentional route. I liked his language of being influencers for Jesus, not just tellers. And again, this should be kind of a no-brainer, but we should, of course, just follow the model of Jesus and how we talk to our friends and how we try to influence others to come to faith. And so, again, thanks so much to Gary for leading this conversation today. And thank you to you for listening. We're always so grateful for all of you who check out these episodes, so thank you for listening today. Please do help us spread the word or subscribe wherever you're listening. We'd love to have you again for next episode. So with that, let's wrap it up. Hope you have a great day, great rest of your week, and we'll see you next time right here on the Lead Pods.
Thanks for listening to Lead Pods. Make sure you don't miss an episode by subscribing to our show wherever you're listening today. Learn more by visiting usmb.org and be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We'll see you next time as we learn more practical tools to increase our impact together.